Yo guys, what is up? Max and Wonderlands video, and today we're going over all of the gear in the DLC. Today we'll be testing out all of the gear that came with this most recent DLC and my opinions on it, if it's good or not. We're going to be doing like first impressions for all of these, so you're going to see me basically using these guns and weapons for the very first time. I've now went and collected all of them. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get right into it. Real quick, the Lich's Auger and the Butterboom Pistol are currently not dropping yet. They'll probably be available in later weeks of the DLC, but I have all the other DLC gear in this video. So to start us off, we have the Jamstone Ring. Now, this ring can roll with any sort of like ability damage, spell damage, gun damage, and its special is that when you exit Save Your Soul, you're going to get increased effectiveness of your passives on the ring by 66% for 8 seconds. Now, I don't think this is a very good ring. The reason for that is because you want to be wearing a ring that's going to give you a lot of damage to kill enemies. This ring almost incentivizes you to go into fight for your life. But if you're going into fight for your life a bunch, you're eventually going to have a really short fight for your lifetime and then just die. So if you're like really struggling, maybe this is something that could be good. I would have loved maybe if this ring had been like, you deal more damage in fight for your life and you get the bonus, or you extend your fight for your life and if you do exit you get this bonus. I just can't recommend this, and I don't think it's going to be worth wearing on just about any build unless maybe you're really struggling and going into fight for life all the time. Our next weapon in the DLC, and the only other weapon, is the Oil and Spice. Now, this is a fire-locked Doll SMG that comes with 2 firing modes. If you're familiar with the Grease Trap, it's quite similar to that from Borderlands 3, albeit a little bit worse. So, the first firing mode is the Spice. It sends out fire projectiles from your SMGs, similar to other, like, Fire Doll SMGs. And the second firing mode, what makes this gun special, is the Oil. Now, the Oil is going to like lay this oil puddle on the ground, and then when you shoot it with any fire source, it doesn't just need to be this SMG, it ignites and does an explosion, and that explosion scales off of the damage dealt to the puddle, or like the damage that you're doing. So like, for example, when I shoot the puddle with this Oil and Spice that does 175 damage, I get a certain damage number. But if I shoot it with this Hawkins Wrath that is a much higher base damage, I get a bigger explosion. However, I haven't gotten this thing to really do anything meaningful yet, or damage-wise, on Chaos 35. The other weird thing about it is that the oil doesn't actually stick to enemies. It just goes on the floor. So you have to like wait for enemies to get close to the puddle and then explode it. It doesn't seem like it actually sticks to them, which makes it quite awkward to use and like only really super helpful on like stationary things. It's definitely a cool weapon, and I could see it with a buff being a really, really awesome, like fun little choice for like a fire explosion build. But I currently do find it a bit gimmicky, and like the damage is a little bit lacking, especially for anything like bossing related. For mobbing, it's kind of fine, but just a little awkward to use. All right, our next item on the list is the Barbaload. Now, this is a new amulet that reads, Pincushion, attacks have a 19% chance to fire attached crossbolts to nearby enemies and refund a portion of ammo. Now, this amulet is actually awesome. It's going to give your crossbow weapons ricochet those crossbolts, and it'll also give you a ton of ammo. Now, the ammo that it refunds is from your reserves. It's not free ammo, so if you're using this with snipers, like, you'll still run out of ammo. But this amulet has a big issue with it right now, and I'll show it off to you right now. So I'm gonna go into like from the shadows. I'm using the Ruby Spike, which is crossbows, and you'll see that when I'm shooting at those enemies, I just got a lot of my ammo back during those shots. It's only a 19% chance to trigger, but I did get ammo back. The issue with this amulet is it breaks after your first reload. After your first reload using this and shooting it, the ammo return breaks. It does seem like the like projectiles, as you can see here, like those are my crossbow ricochets. Those are the Barbaload arrows, but I will not be getting any more ammo back. These Ruby Spikes don't ricochet normally. So those are the ricochets from the Barbaload. However, I don't get ammo back. If you swap weapons and then swap back, you'll then get your ammo back, or your chance to return ammo. But this amulet is currently bugged and will work a lot better once Gearbox fixes it to not break on your reload, because this will give you tons of ricochets and tons of ammo return, and will work really, really well with crossbow weapons, but right now it's kind of bugged. So yeah. Next up, we have the new class mod, which is the Miasmic Male. Now, this reads it's going to give you plus 30% status effect damage, and it also has a kill skill where status effect chance is increased for 50% for 6 seconds after you get a kill. Now, this class mod's passives, the status effect damage, and the chance increase with the roll on the class mod, meaning if you have a chaotic or a volatile or a primordial, that status effect damage will increase and that status effect chance will increase. Now, obviously, this class mod is super geared towards status effect builds, and if you've seen any of our contagion messing arounds on the channel, this works extremely well with status effect builds. Probably wouldn't use it with anything else other than a status effect build, and contagion is one of the most strong ways to get this working. I have yet to get lucky enough to get this on a Graveborn Stabomancer contagion thing, but when I do, I'll be sure to update the contagion build. Whether or not this is better than the corrupted plate mail, not sure yet. I need to get it with the with +3 into contagion to test that. But yeah, super cool class mod. And then we get into our new spell, which is the Bolt Lash. Now, the Bolt Lash spell reads, it casts an ethereal arrow that sticks to targets. A target struck with 3 ethereal arrows explodes and fires arrows to nearby enemies. Now, this spell, from as far as I can tell, can come in any element, but will always come in repeating cast. I've only seen it in the repeating cast, and it fires out a bunch of spells for like one single charge. It can come in a ×2, so you can get extra projectiles on this thing, meaning that in just like your first spell cast plus like one more projectile hitting, you can get this thing to like stick and explode to nearby enemies. I don't know if you can roll it with +3 projectiles. That would be insane. Every single spell cast would cause this explosion. So far, I haven't seen anything too crazy happening from this spell. In terms of like DPS output, it definitely seems more of a mobbing spell than a obviously like bossing spell, because you're gonna want enemies nearby. But I'll just fire it out here, and you can see its projectiles just hit that projectile that just hit that enemy for 5 damage. I don't know if you guys saw that. I don't know what's up with that, but I haven't seen it do too much damage yet. It's, at least from what I could tell, a little underwhelming. That guy's getting hit by 21 damage. Not sure what's up with it, but it is a very cool spell in theory. And lastly, we have the Salt and Battery melee weapon. I made a video on this yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about it in depth, but the Salted Battery is genuinely one of the stronger melee weapons in the game right now. It's got the effect that whenever you swing it, you're going to build up your melee critical hit chance, which is the salt, and then your battery, when you do critical hit, you spawn a Dagger Storm. This Dagger Storm does melee damage and works extremely well with the Stabomancer, which will give you From the Shadows to always be in From the Shadows. But the cool thing about this weapon is you don't need to be a Stabomancer, just because you're going to build up that crit chance automatically, and it comes with a whopping 200% critical hit damage. This thing can summon some really crazy like Dagger Storms that are really fun to mess around with and genuinely strong. Last item in this DLC is the Garlic Breath spell. Now, this is a Nova spell. When you cast it, it's going to summon a pulsating Nova around yourself, and on a critical hit, it knocks enemies down. I've currently been using this on a status effect build. I'm going to be honest, I don't think this spell is very good. It's a little gimmicky, and the only reason I could see you like actually taking use of this spell is probably on something like a build that I'm rocking, which is a From the Shadows poison like AoE dot build, which is what I'm using. Like usually I'm just using this thing, the White Rider, to dot things, but I can also use this spell. It doesn't have a great like dot chance, but it does look really cool, and as you can see, it's going to be critical hitting, knocking enemies down, so it gives me a little bit of like control on enemies, and it'll do dot things. So like on this specific build in this specific scenario, it's kind of a cool option, but it doesn't do a ton else besides like these like pretty mediocre like damage novas. Even on Spellslinger, which is my best spell build, like they weren't really doing much damage at all, so really only here for like utility dots and maybe some knockback. Not a very good item in my opinion. Just kind of gimmicky like some of the other items. And yeah, guys, that is gonna do it for the spells. By the way, this can only come in poison. It cannot come in any other element. And yeah, that's gonna do it for our kind of like review of the DLC items. Overall, I wasn't too impressed with this DLC. the actual like content of the DLC, like running through the maps, is definitely better than the first one. It's definitely a step up in the amount of enemies, the flow of combat, the objectives. It definitely is an improvement, but I don't think it's an improvement in the items. These items are, for the most part, a little gimmicky, not too great, and after you finish the content and the goal of playing the content, repeating it, what you're doing, your incentivization, is the items and to get those really cool things. And I think these items kind of miss the mark. Besides the Sultan Battery and the Miasmic Mail, those two things are cool. We'll get to see what the other two items are, but I wanted to give this review based off of what items are in the actual DLC, and I've got the Sultan Battery and the Miasmic Mail being good, and the Oil and Spice, Bolt Lash, Barber Load, Garlic Breath, and the Gemstone Ring being all pretty bad, being on a good or bad scale rating, and that leaves us to our score, which would be a 2.8 out of 10, aka a 2 out of 7, but if we multiply 7 to get to 10, we'd multiply 2 by 1.4, so our overall review for the DLC, at least in its items, is a 2.8 out of 10. These DLCs are definitely like a different direction than Gearbox has done, but when you compare them to DLCs, or not even DLCs, like free events such as Cartels, where we're getting 9 items, if these are going to have even less guns, like that was 9 guns in Cartels, this only has 2 guns. We've only seen one of them, and the one that I've seen is not very good. If you're going to do less items, I'd hope that the quality of the items would be better, and I think it's kind of missing the mark there. So you guys, just my opinions on the DLC items. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch y'all on the next one. Take care. Peace.